I thought my son would never succeed in math, then our new maid changed everything for him. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. It was crisp and clear, the kind of day that tricked you into thinking everything was all right. But inside, I felt the weight of the world. My heart sank as I watched Thomas, my 13-year-old son, struggling with math homework once again. Tears glistened in his eyes, and my chest tightened. He had always been bright, but numbers. They turned into a foreign language, a fog that he could never penetrate. The math book lay open on the table, its pages crumpled and worn. The pencil in his hand trembled, as if even it knew the odds were against him. "Why can't I get this?" he whispered, his voice heavy with despair. I wanted to reach out, to tell him it was okay, but instead, I felt a lump rising in my throat. As his mother, I wanted to protect him. Instead, I felt like I was failing him, that it wasn't just the math, it was everything. The isolation he faced at school because of his struggles, the teasing, the way kids turned their backs as he entered a room. I hated that helpless feeling, the urge to shield him from hurt, and the knowledge that I couldn't. He was drowning in silence, and I didn't know how to help him surface. Then everything shifted. One afternoon, I received a call from my friend Maria. She was bubbly as always, her voice bright and cheerful, but I could hear something was up. "You need to meet our new maid, Luna," she urged. She said Luna had a way with kids, especially those who struggled. "Trust me," Maria insisted. "It's like she has a gift." That I was skeptical. Maid? Gift? But desperation can make you clutch at straws. So, I agreed. That evening, Luna stepped into our home like a breath of fresh air. She was captivating. Her dark hair flowed like a waterfall, her eyes sparkled with warmth, and her laughter was contagious. But there was something else. There was an aura of mystery around her. She seemed to know things before they were said, her smile lingering with secrets. She knelt beside Thomas, and I held my breath. As she explained the math problems, the numbers seemed to dance around her fingers. It was as if she had the power to pull each equation straight from the air, unraveling the chaos into clarity. I watched, my heart swelling as Thomas's face transformed. He began to smile, to lean in, to ask questions. It was electric. I noticed how the shadows of frustration that usually clung to him faded away with every word she spoke. This was not mere tutoring, it felt like a spell was being cast. But as the days turned into weeks, and though Ma's confidence blossomed, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Her presence was magnetic, but there were moments, the flicker of her gaze, the way her laughter dimmed when she thought no one was watching, that sent shivers down my spine. Last night, as I stood at the door listening to their animated conversation, I noticed the air crackling with something intangible. I thought I saw her glance towards the window, her eyes scanning the darkness beyond with a familiarity that sent a wave of dread through me. What did she know? What was she hiding? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The autumn sun hung low in the sky, casting an orange glow over the house as I took a moment to breathe, watching my son and Luna through the kitchen window. They were sitting on the backyard swing, laughter spilling into the air like golden leaves fluttering down in the breeze. It was a sight I had longed for ever since Thomas had started struggling. Yet, in the back of my mind, a question lingered like a shadow: at what cost? As the days wore on, I noticed my son's transformation, a visible lightness in his step, a spark in his eyes that had been absent for what felt like an eternity. Math lessons had become a joy instead of a torment. Luna had unlocked something within him, a passion for learning that I feared might have been extinguished forever. But I still couldn't shake the unsettling feeling that loomed over our household. One evening, as I prepared dinner, I overheard their conversation drift through the open window. Thomas was animatedly talking about a new concept they'd tackled, fractions, and I felt a wave of joy wash over me, only to be interrupted by a low, uncertain whisper from Luna. "It's important to remember where you've come from, Thomas. Not everything is as it seems," she said, her voice silk-wrapped in a somber tone that sent chills down my spine. That I paused, gripping the counter's edge, unease creeping into my heart. What did she mean? I glanced toward the window, but Luna had already switched topics, and the laughter returned, dissolving my worries in an instant. Yet, the undercurrent of uneasiness remained. Later that night, after Thomas was asleep, I mustered the courage to approach Luna. She was in the living room, dusting shelves filled with framed memories, seemingly at peace. I waited for the right moment before speaking up. "Luna," I started hesitantly, "can we talk?" She turned, her expression unreadable, and nodded. The gravity in my chest tightened as I navigated my way through words. "You've been wonderful with Thomas. I see the change in him, and am grateful. But I can't ignore the feeling that there's something more to you. The way you sometimes look at things, like you're carrying a weight." Her gaze sharpened, a flicker of something almost like fear darting across her face before she composed herself. "Everyone carries their stories, some heavier than others. But your son deserves a chance to break free from his struggles." She averted her eyes, staring into the distance as if seeking something far beyond the room. "There's something you're not telling me?" I asked, a hard knot forming in my stomach. It wasn't just curiosity, it was instinct, a plea to uncover the truth. Her laugh was soft, almost melancholic. "Don't worry. I'm here to help him, to make a difference." Yet the weight of her words lingered like a storm cloud ready to burst. She stood and walked toward the window, looking outside with a distant gaze. My heart ached. Why couldn't I shake this feeling? Days passed, and with them came whispers of kindness from neighbors, teachers, even strangers who noticed the change in Thomas. How beautifully heartwarming. But with each small joy, I found myself withdrawing, grappling with an invisible battle in my mind. My worries about Luna became a continuous hum, a melody that never left my thoughts. One afternoon, storm clouds rolled in, looming heavy over our town. As thunder cracked in the distance, I felt a palpable shift in the atmosphere at home. I could hear Thomas's laughter echo through the house, even as rain began to pour. The juxtaposition was dissonant. A part of me felt comfort in his happiness, yet I was haunted by the tension that had made a permanent home in my gut. And then it happened. A loud crash of thunder rattled the windows, causing Thomas to jump from his seat. I rushed to ensure he was all right, already caught up in the warmth of his smile. But when I stepped into the living room, I froze. Luna was standing by the window, fingers brushing against the glass as her expression turned serious. "I need to tell you something," she said, voice barely above a whisper. My blood ran cold at the intensity in her gaze, a warning, an urgency that set my heart pounding furiously. "What is it?" I took a step closer, echoing her anxious presence. She hesitated before speaking, her shoulders taut as if bracing against a tempest brewing not just in the skies outside, but within her. The storm roared overhead, and the lights flickered ominously, and as she opened her mouth, I felt the room shrink around us, reality twisting and tightening until it was on the brink of unraveling. "There's a reason I'm here, in your lives, and if I don't tell you now, it might be too late." The words hung between us, heavy and charged, like a coiled spring ready to snap. I held my breath, waiting for the revelation I feared would change everything. The air felt electric, the mounting tension between us thick enough to slice. I could see the tremor in Luna's hands as she grasped the edge of the windowsill. Through the window, the fury of the storm mirrored the tempest brewing inside her. I took a step closer, my heart racing, desperate for clarity amidst the chaos. "Luna, please." I urged softly, attempting to bridge the widening chasm of uncertainty. The memories of her whispered words about the past echoed in my mind, tangled performances of a fate I didn't understand. My son's happiness flickered like a candle in the vast night, and I feared the winds were about to extinguish it. That I started volunteering at school for a reason. Her voice cracked, the intensity of her words igniting a flame of anxiety in my chest. I had hoped to blend into the background, to be just a helping hand. She finally met my eyes, and in that moment, I understood that whatever she was about to share had been weighing her down, inching toward the surface like a desperate cry for help. Then what happened? I leaned closer, caught between my instinct to protect and my desire to understand. With a sudden breath, Luna turned her gaze back to the storm outside, as though searching for courage in the rolling clouds. Thomas reminds me of someone I used to know. Someone I lost. Her voice trembled, and in an instant, the connection she shared with my son became painfully evident, threading through my worries like a dark thread in a tapestry of bright colors. Lost? I repeated, feeling the chill creeping up my spine. Yes, she whispered, choking on the weight of her words. My brother, Ethan. He struggled with learning too, and he never got the help he needed. I watched him fall apart, and when he took his last breath, I swore I would help others. Pain flickered in her eyes, a momentary glimpse into a past laced with sorrow. I swore I would never let another child feel that alone. Her confession hung in the air like a fog, disorienting. But you're here now. You're helping Thomas. I didn't fully wish to understand what lurked in her sadness, but it was clear a deeper wound lay at the foundation of her resolve. Sometimes, she continued, the people we love can be lost before we even realize it. She paused. I don't want to lose Thomas like I lost Ethan. I can't. The intensity of her desperation washed over me, a raw rage against the universe that had taken something so precious. Her revelation struck a chord deep within me. I had known pain, I had tried to shield my son from suffering, to create a world where he could flourish. But Luna carried an entire universe of grief, and in her own way, she was shielding him too, just as desperately as I was. The fear of seeing Thomas struggle had driven us both, two people caught in the same storm, compelled to keep our loved ones afloat against the tides of despair. I can't let him down either, I whispered, clenching my hands into fists. But you have to trust me, Luna. He needs you, but he needs honesty even more. There was a flicker of understanding in her eyes, a glimpse that maybe we were not so different after all, caught in this storm of love and fear. Just as she seemed to relax, the lights flickered again, plunging us into semi-darkness. The thunder cracked like a whip, and a flash of lightning slashed through the room, leaving a vivid imprint on our conversation, and in that moment, something unfurled between us, a fragile sense of camaraderie. I promise, she began, but in the middle of the sentence, her phone buzzed violently on the table, shattering the atmosphere we had just begun to build. She glanced at the screen, her expression shifting abruptly, catching me off guard. It's my father, she whispered, a mix of dread and surprise flooding her voice. I need to take this. Without waiting for a response, she dashed out of the room, leaving me standing there, the walls closing in with the weight of her words still hanging heavily in the air. That I was left alone, my thoughts a tempest of doubts and fears. Outside, the storm raged on, the horizon darkening with the approach of a greater unknown. I felt torn, the shards of our connection slipping through my fingers. Just then, Thomas peeked around the corner, his innocent face melting my frayed nerves for the briefest of moments. Mom, why is it so dark? He asked, the light of his curiosity a fleeting comfort. I knelt to meet his level, forcing a smile that felt stark against the backdrop of my turmoil. Just a little storm, buddy. We'll be okay. As I held his gaze, a thought struck me, wiping the smile off my face. What if Luna was hiding more than just her past? The reminder that she had arrived in our lives during one of our darkest hours gnawed at me, carving deeper lines of worry into my heart. A sudden, nagging voice in the back of my mind whispered that I had yet to uncover everything about her. And the thought terrified me. What threads had she woven into our lives, and at what cost would they come unraveled? As thunder crashed once more, I felt the weight of fate settling heavily in my chest. The storm had only just begun. The storm outside had become a relentless companion, a constant reminder of the brewing storm within. I felt the atmosphere shift as I turned back to Thomas, his eyes wide and trusting. I couldn't let him see my own fear, I needed to be strong for him. Why don't we play a game? I suggested, desperately trying to breathe life back into the moment that he beamed at the idea, the flicker of joy a balm to my frayed nerves. As we settled on the floor, I dug out a deck of cards. He shuffled with earnest concentration, the thoroughness of his attempt a painful reminder of how much he struggled with things most children found easy. I marveled at his persistence but felt the all too familiar pang of protective anguish in my heart. The door creaked, and I looked up, half expecting Luna to return. Instead, it was a gust of wind that sent a chill through the air, and the lights flickered again, a signal of the tempest raging outside. "Okay, buddy," I said, flipping the first card. "Let's see what you've got." As we played, I overheard snippets of Luna's conversation in the other room. Her tone was clipped, tense, and my heart dropped at the unfamiliar edge in her voice. Each word that wafted into the sitting room felt weighed down with emotion, fear, urgency, grief. I felt a growing sense of isolation despite Thomas' laughter filling the space around me. "Mama," Thomas interrupted, his gaze fixed on me, "is Aunt Luna okay?" I forced a smile, though it felt like a mask. "I'm sure she's fine, sweetheart. Just a little family trouble, that's all." But inside, a knot tight-knit a pulse of concern that Luna's troubles might spill into our lives like an unwanted storm surge. From where I sat, I could see the broad window revealing the tempestuous dance of the wind outside. I wished I could feel that same wild energy, that freedom and unpredictability in life. Instead, my own thoughts spiraled further into the unknown. What did she mean by family trouble? Was this perhaps the surface of something even deeper, something that might affect her ability to help Thomas? The door swung open with a sudden force, and Luna swept back in, a shadow crafted from the storm itself. She looked alarmed and slightly shaken, as though the conversation had dampened her spirit. I met her eyes, searching for answers as her gaze softened at the sight of Thomas engrossed in our game. "Everything okay?" I asked, my voice a hesitant inquiry. Her demeanor shifted slightly, though I could sense the remnants of her prior turmoil lingering just beneath the surface. "My father, he wants to talk about Ethan." The admission hung between us like an invisible thread, a connection fraught with tension. "Do you want to talk about it?" I offered, truly wanting to be there for her, wishing to ease the burden that had become palpable within the room. She hesitated and shook her head. "It's complicated. Maybe later." There was a flicker of hurt behind her eyes, a flicker of something I couldn't quite place. For Thomas' sake, I aimed to change the subject. "We were just playing a card game. Want to join us?" A moment of hesitation passed before Luna forced a small smile, the kind that masked her inner conflict. "Sure, why not?" But as she settled onto the floor beside us, the tension remained, an unseen wall between us. While we played, the lightning continued to flash outside, illuminating each face in bursts of silver and shadow. "What's that?" Thomas asked, wide-eyed as another bolt lit up the room, too, a spark of fascination against the backdrop of fear. "It's just the storm," I reassured him, though my gaze remained locked on Luna. "Thunder and lightning mean the storm's really strong, like super strong?" Thomas echoed, an innocent marvel taking root in his voice. "Exactly," Luna replied, catching on to the moment. "A storm can be powerful, but it can also bring a fresh start afterward." That I felt a twinge of hope at her words, wanting to believe that our challenges could somehow shift and reveal a brighter day ahead. But as quickly as it flickered, doubt crept back in. Later that evening, after Thomas had gone to bed, I couldn't shake the feeling that we stood on the precipice of something both delicate and monumental. I found Luna outside on the balcony, with rain softly tap dancing against the wooden planks. She glanced up at me, the storm a faint echo now, but I could see her thoughts swirling as vividly as the clouds. "Luna," I began, hesitating as I approached. "Is there something more I should know about your past?" Her eyes, usually so alive with fire, dimmed momentarily. "I don't want it to affect my work with Thomas." "I swear," she said resolutely, but her voice quivered. In that instant, I realized that her secrets didn't just pertain to her brother. They tugged at her heart, twisted into the fabric of her existence with vivid darkness I could barely comprehend. "Luna," I said softly, feeling the gravity of her struggle press against my chest. "You're not alone in this," but as I reached for her, a sudden rumble from the dark sky interrupted. A loud crash echoed through the night like an enormous snap of wood, and a heavy thud that reverberated through the air, making our hearts stall momentarily. "What was that?" I gasped, gripped by sudden realization as dread twisted in my stomach. Luna's eyes were wide, the shock mirrored in my own face. And then, in the thick silence that followed, we shared a moment of mutual understanding: something was wrong. We rushed inside, compelled by the instinct to seek safety, but whatever had fallen or broken outside felt heavy, almost as though it heralded the breaking of a deeper truth that had long been buried. What secrets lay waiting for us in the storm? And could we face them together before they swept us away? The night felt charged with an urgency that echoed ominously, but I had to believe we were not lost, not yet. The storm carried on, a fierce companion as I lay in bed, unable to find solace against the rhythmic pounding of the rain outside. Each drop seemed to mirror the turmoil in my chest, the uncertainty of what lay ahead overshadowing any fleeting moments of peace I could grasp. Beside me, Thomas slept soundly, his innocent presence no longer capable of shielding me from the weight of the world, the too familiar ache of the unknown pressing against my heart that I found myself staring at the ceiling, tracing the shadows dancing above me. Thoughts spiraled chaotically. Luna's burden, my fears for Thomas' future, the ominous unknowns enveloping us like a heavy fog. What had fallen outside? Was it a sign? The tension between Luna and me lingered unresolved, like unspoken words caught in our throats. Before I could spiral further, a soft knock at my door startled me. I turned to find Luna standing there, haloed by the dim hallway light, a fragile look cast across her features. She stepped in cautiously, her silhouette barely cutting through the darkness. "Can I join you?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Of course," I replied, shifting the covers to make room for her. I could feel the weight of her presence as she settled beside me, the faint scent of rain-soaked earth clinging to her. We lay in silence, the air thick with unsaid words. Finally, she broke the quiet. "I've been thinking about what you said about not being alone." Her voice trembled as she spoke, laden with vulnerability. "I haven't been entirely honest about my past." "That I am here to listen," I reassured her, turning slightly to face her. The words tumbled out, each one tinged with the hesitance of someone who had buried too much. "Ethan and I had a different life. Our family was torn apart in ways I can't even explain." "Is that why you're avoiding the conversation with your father?" I asked gently, sensing the hesitation in her. "Yes," she confessed, her voice barely audible. "I thought I could outrun the shadows, but they still follow me. I'm scared that opening the door to that past might spiral everything out of control." That I could feel her pain echo through me, the struggle for acceptance, the need to shield herself and Thomas from whatever demons lingered there. "Your past doesn't define you, Luna. It's part of your story, but it doesn't have to control your future," I said, searching her gaze for the reassurance that we would prevail. She glanced sideways at me, her expression softening momentarily before the weight returned. "But what if my past makes me unworthy of being Thomas' aide? What if my mistakes interfere with his success?" My heart surged with empathy. I had never seen her as anything but a beacon of hope for Thomas, and I voiced that conviction. "You've changed his world. You encouraged him to learn and grow in ways I never thought possible. Your enthusiasm for his progress is invaluable." She looked down, her fingers nervously playing with the edge of the blanket. "What if my father's visit turns everything upside down? What if he reveals something that shatters the trust Thomas has in me?" Her vulnerability cut deep. I wanted to remind her of the light she was bringing into our lives, but I knew I had to tread carefully. "You're not just his aide, Luna. You mean something to him, something vital." As the storm rumbled outside, the tension between us shifted, intermingled with an unexpected understanding. It felt like we were on the edge of something formless and undefined, yet bursting with potential. "I want to tell Thomas the truth," she admitted suddenly, her eyes finding mine with a determination that weighed against the uncertainty looming over us. "But I'm terrified of how he might react." In that moment, I understood that her fear mirrored my own. How much of our pasts could we expose to Thomas before it tainted his impression of our little world? Just then, an earth-shattering crash echoed from outside, so loud it felt as if the walls around us shook. We exchanged frantic glances, our hearts racing in unison as we both jumped up. "What was that?" she gasped as I rushed to the window, peering out into the darkness, my breath hitching in my throat as I caught sight of the chaos. A tree, uprooted from its foundation, now sprawled across our driveway, its massive trunk cradling something beneath it, something that glinted ominously in the rain. What happened? Luna stood beside me, her breath reeking of fear and adrenaline. "Is Thomas okay?" "I don't know," I breathed, dread coiling within me as I turned back toward the hallway. "We need to check on him." We raced toward Thomas' room, my heart pounding in sync with every frantic step. But as we reached his door, an ominous whisper echoed in the back of my mind, a nagging thought that perhaps the storm was only the beginning of a far greater upheaval to come. Just as we were about to cross the threshold, another loud crack of lightning echoed, illuminating the space around us for a fleeting moment. In that instant, I noticed a flicker of light coming from Thomas' room, an eerily glowing object shifting at his bedside. "Luna!" I hissed, an unfamiliar fear taking hold. "What is that?" Her eyes widened as she stepped forward, trepidation etched across her face. "I don't know, but we have to find out, together." As we approached the door, the unsure silence of the night was filled with an electric charge of apprehension. What awaited us inside could unravel everything we thought we understood about one another, about Thomas, and about the life we were precariously trying to build, and with each step forward, the weight of the unearthing truth pressed heavier upon my chest, a looming storm that promised to shatter the fragile balance we had fought so hard to maintain. The door creaked open, and I held my breath, the accumulated tension gripping my throat. Inside, Thomas' room was cloaked in shadows, disrupted only by the unearthly glow radiating from his bedside. My heart raced as I stepped into the room, Luna right behind me, her presence a calming anchor amidst the rising tide of my fears. "Thomas?" I called softly, my voice breaking the spell of stillness. The glow pulsed gently, casting ethereal shapes across the walls, shadows dancing in tandem with my growing apprehension. There he was, perched on the edge of his bed, wide-eyed and entranced by whatever he had found. The object, an iridescent sphere, seemed almost to hum, a siren song pulling him closer. I could see the way his small fingers reached out to touch it, fascinated yet hesitant, and I felt a surge of protectiveness swell within me. "Sweetheart, what is that?" I asked, moving closer, unsure if I should be more worried by the strange artifact or the fact that he seemed completely oblivious to the raging storm outside. "That it just appeared, Mom," he murmured, his voice almost a whisper as he traced the light with his fingertips. "I think it wants me to touch it." Luna stepped forward, her brows knitting together. "Thomas, you should be careful. We don't know what it is." He looked at us, confusion and excitement flickering in his eyes. "But it feels good. Like it understands me." I exchanged a glance with Luna, a silent conversation unfolding between user worries, our fears, twisted around the edges of hope. Could this strange object be a sign? A connection to something larger than ourselves? Or was it merely a reflection of the chaos swirling outside, a manifestation of the storm's rage? "Let me see it," I urged gently, kneeling beside him. The glow illuminated his features, soft, innocent, yet layered with the budding complexity of a child on the cusp of discovery. "What do you feel when you touch it?" "I don't know," Thomas admitted, his voice tinged with wonder. "It's like I can almost understand math better. Like it makes sense of everything I couldn't figure out before." My heart sank slightly, the weight of our earlier conversation lingering overhead. The truth was, I had half expected this moment, a revelation that might shatter the image I had crafted around Thomas' struggles. Yet here we were, faced with something inexplicable. "Maybe it's just your imagination," Luna interjected, though her voice lacked conviction. "Or maybe it's just the storm making you feel different." "No!" Thomas cried, a hint of frustration creeping into his tone. "I feel it. Like everything I've been doing in math is finally adding up." Hope surged within me, yet I couldn't shake off the feeling that the glow held more than just an emotional breakthrough. "Luna," I whispered, hoping not to alarm Thomas further. "What if it's more than that? What if it opens up doors we can't close? Before she could respond, another crack of thunder sounded, louder this time, jolting us all. The glowing orb dimmed momentarily, flickering like a candle threatened by a gust of wind. A slight tremor shook through the floor beneath us, and I clutched Thomas' shoulder instinctively, guiding him backward. Let's back away for a moment, I suggested, the room suddenly imbued with an unsettling anxiety. For every fragment of hope I felt for Thomas's academic struggles, an equal measure of fear lingered in the air. He protested, his eyes bright with fervor. I want to see it. He fought against my grip, determination etching his brow. That I exchanged another glance with Luna, feeling our connection deepen under the strain of this shared urgency. It's not safe yet, Thomas. Let's just give it a moment. As if on cue, the glowing orb flickered back to life, pulsing with an intensity that momentarily blinded us. The light washed over the room, and for an agonizing second, I thought I saw images swirling within fragments of equations, erratic numbers, shadows of something both foreboding and transformative. Mom! Thomas cried, his voice filled with awe and fear. It's showing me my problems. Look, in that instant, everything around us seemed to tilt. Time stretched as I caught sight of the mathematical symbols flickering in the air, illuminating the room's corners. My heart raced as I tried to make sense of the spectacle unfolding before us, but the sphere's radiance brought with it a deeper instinctive dread. Every filament that shone brought the fractured memories of a past I thought I had prepared for. It was as if the storm outside had found a way inside, threatening to drown our vulnerable peace in a sea of chaos. Thomas, we have to go, I urged, my voice insisting now, as a sharp instinct kicked in. We need to find a way to dim the light. It might get dangerous. The warmth in Thomas' face waned, replaced by uncertainty. But it's helping me. I turned to Luna, her eyes reflecting the same storm of anxiety swirling within me. Can you help me hold him back? As we moved, a deafening roar echoed from outside, clashing with the grip the orb had on Thomas' spirit. The eerie glow pulsed violently, and I knew then this was no ordinary storm brewing around us. The tempest had unzipped the seams of our lives, exposing us to forces we weren't prepared to face. In a sudden twist, Thomas reached forward, drawn in by the intoxicating warmth of the light. I need to touch it. Don't you understand? I can do it. Panic coursed through me like wildfire as I lunged forward, desperate to protect him from whatever darkness might surge forth. But all at once, as my fingers grazed the edge of the orb, a flicker of my own buried fears surfaced. Shadows of my past flared briefly into view, intertwining with those of Luna, turbulent and chaotic, hearts desperate for connection, shattered by the weight of our respective histories. Time slowed, the boundaries of our realities stretching, a harbinger of the truths yet to unfurl. And as our world quaked beneath us, I froze, the portal between dream and reason blurring, knowing that this storm was only the beginning. What would we uncover about one another, and what kind of storm had truly been unleashed upon our lives? The future lay obscured, a whisper upon the horizon, promising revelations that could shatter everything we thought we understood. The light from the orb surged, wrapping around us like a cocoon, and I felt the room pulse with an alien energy as visions flickered within. Numbers twisted and turned like dervishes, forming equations that danced an elegant ballet across the darkness. My mind strained to understand, but all I felt was the brute force of my fear tightening around my heart. Thomas, please. I pleaded, my voice wavering. We have to leave. It's too much. I tried to drag him back, panic clawing at my insides, but he resisted, locked in a trance as he stared at the enigmatic sphere. No. I can't leave. It's finally talking to me. His voice was a mixture of excitement and desperation, and I recognized the thrill of discovery in his eyes. The sorrow of his struggles with math, the frustration tucked deep within that had shadowed his bright spirit, seemed so fragile against the raw energy rippling around us now. Luna stepped closer,